There are things a woman carries into a room that no one can see. The 6 hours of careful alteration. The needle pricks on her fingers, small and precise, the map of a morning's work. The specific smell of a cedar chest opened after 2 years, lavender and something older underneath, something that belonged to the chest itself and to everything that had ever been kept in it. The particular weight of wearing something that used to belong to someone who is no longer there. These things do not show. They are present nonetheless. Iris Vane had spent the morning on the floor of her mother's bedroom with a needle and thread, and the pale blue dress spread across her lap like something she was trying to hold together. Her mother had been shorter. The hem had needed taking up. The waist had needed slight adjustment. Her mother had been softer through the middle, in the way of women in their 50s who had stopped caring about that particular measurement, and Iris was narrower, and the difference had required careful work if it was going to lie correctly. She had done the work carefully. She had done it because Lucy had said you can't stay home forever, Iris, asterisk, and because Lucy was right, and because somewhere in the 2 years since her mother's death, she had lost the ability to find reasons to go places and had decided, sitting in the house alone on a Thursday morning, that the pale blue dress was as good a reason as she was likely to find. She had pricked her finger twice on the left seam and once near the hem, and had not noticed any of them until she was already dressed and standing at the mirror, and saw the small dark spot on her thumb. She had wrapped it in a handkerchief. She had gone to the ball. She had felt, walking through the entrance of the Hartwell assembly rooms with Lucy's hand on her arm, and the pale blue dress moving the way her mother's dresses had always moved, with a kind of unhurried certainty, as though they knew exactly what they were, that she was not entirely alone. Then the Duke of Ashford passed her on his way to somewhere more important. He was talking to someone. She did not know who. She was not looking at him. She was looking at the room, at the lights, at the particular organized brightness of a large gathering that had been anticipating itself all season. His voice was low, not a whisper, simply the easy, carrying murmur of a man accustomed to being heard by the people he intended to hear him. "Borrowed dress," he said, "you can always tell." And kept walking. Iris stood very still. The room continued around her, the music, the movement, the 200 people going about the business of the evening. No one stopped. No one turned. 3 people within earshot had heard, she was fairly certain, and were now doing what people did with things they had heard that they did not know what to do with, looking at other things with unusual focus. She stood with her needle-pricked fingers and her mother's hem, and the lavender smell that she could still detect, faintly, when she turned her head a certain way. She did not cry. She had not cried in the immediate sense for quite some time. She had learned, in the 2 years since her father and then her mother, that the immediate sense was not always where the crying happened, that grief was not always the thing that arrived at once and loudly, but sometimes the thing that waited, patient and specific, for the exact wrong moment and the exact wrong word. Borrowed. She stood for 3 more seconds. Then she smiled, the composed version, the one that cost nothing because it asked nothing of what was actually in her face. And she turned to Lucy, who was looking at her with the expression she wore when she was waiting to understand what had just happened. "I need some air," Iris said. The balcony was cold. October had come properly that week, with the particular decisiveness of a season that had been waiting for permission, the air sharp, the light different, the evenings arriving earlier and staying darker. Iris stood at the stone railing and looked at the garden below, which was invisible in the dark except for the dim shapes of the hedges and the distant lamp at the garden gate. She put both hands on the railing. She looked at her right thumb, the handkerchief still wrapped around it, a small white square that had been doing its job all evening. She unwrapped it. The small dark spot had dried. She folded the handkerchief and put it in her glove. She thought about the dress. Not the Duke's words, she had filed those away for later, in the specific internal location she had developed for things that needed to be felt but could not be felt at the present moment. Later. She would feel them properly later. Right now she thought about the dress itself, about the morning, about the hem, about the cedar smell when she had opened the chest and found it exactly where she had last seen it, folded as her mother had folded it, which was a particular way her mother had learned from her own mother, a fold that made almost no creases. She had unfolded it very carefully. She had held it up in the light from the bedroom window, pale blue, which had been her mother's color in the way that some colors became a person's color over time, worn so often and so comfortably that the color and the person became inseparable in other people's memories. Your mother's blue, Aunt Helen had called it once, as though the color belonged to her personally. Iris supposed it did now. She had sat on the floor with the dress across her lap and a good needle, and the thread she had found in her mother's sewing box. The same sewing box, the same thread, the same small silver thimble that she had put on her mother's middle finger, and felt the strange specific grief of an object that fit the wrong hand. 6 hours. She had not thought during those 6 hours about what the dress would mean to other people. She had thought about the hem and the waist, and whether the color would read correctly in lamplight. She had thought, occasionally, about her mother in this dress, at a dinner, at someone's drawing room, at the particular occasion she could not now recall when she had last seen her wear it, and had thought, without particular significance at the time, that's a nice color on her. She had not thought that it would be the last time she saw her mother in it. You never thought that until it was true. She heard the balcony door. "I thought you might actually have left," Lucy said, coming to stand beside her. "I considered it," Iris said. But I decided I wasn't going to." Lucy was quiet for a moment. She was 26 and had been Iris's cousin since birth and her closest friend since approximately age 7, when Iris had defended her at a birthday party with a firmness that had surprised everyone, including Iris. She knew when to press and when to wait. She waited. "He didn't even look at me," Iris said. "No," Lucy said. "He said it and kept walking." "Yes." "I was just," she stopped. The head shapes in the dark below were very still. "I was just something he passed, an observation." "Yes," Lucy said. "That's what makes it what it is." Iris looked at her. "If he'd been cruel on purpose it would have been different," Lucy said. "If he'd intended it, but he just said it, because he was used to saying things and not thinking about who heard them." "My mother made that dress," Iris said. "I know," Lucy said. "She didn't make it, she bought it. But she wore it for 15 years and it was hers, in the way that things become yours." "I know," Lucy said again. They stood in the cold for a moment. "3 people heard him," Iris said. "I know, I counted 2. They'll tell others." "Probably." Iris was quiet. She looked at the dark garden, at the lamp at the gate, at the shapes of things she couldn't quite see. "I'm going back in," she said. Lucy turned. "Iris." "I'm going back in," Iris said. Not raised, she rarely raised her voice, but with the quality of finality that Lucy had known since they were 7, the voice that had defended her at the birthday party, the voice that meant the decision was made. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Iris said. "I'm going back in." She straightened up from the railing. She looked down at the pale blue dress, at the hem she had taken up that morning, at the waist she had carefully adjusted. It sat correctly. It lay correctly. Whatever the Duke of Ashford had thought he saw, the dress was, in the technical sense, entirely its own. "How do I look?" she said. Lucy looked at her, all of her, from the hemline to her face. "Like yourself," Lucy said. "Which is the best you ever look?" Iris nodded. She opened the balcony door. She went back in. The room received her return in the way rooms received things, without acknowledgement, continuing on, organizing itself around the new information of her presence without drawing attention to the organization. She accepted a glass of wine from a passing tray. She spoke to Mrs. Alderton, who was 70 and had known her mother and who greeted her with the simple, uncalculated warmth of someone who had no reason to be anything other than pleased to see her. She danced once with young Mr. Forsyth, who was enthusiastic and kind, and steered her into at least 2 other couples, which she managed without comment. She listened to a conversation about the autumn hunting that she had no interest in, and contributed 2 sentences at appropriate intervals. She was, she noted, managing the evening. This was not quite the same as enjoying it, but it was not nothing. It was the practiced competence of someone who had learned, in 2 years of necessary practice, that you could be present in a room without being consumed by it. The Duke of Ashford was across the room for most of the first hour. She was aware of him the way she had always been aware of people who had done something to her. Not obsessively, not with the fixed attention of someone waiting for an opportunity, but with the background attentiveness of a person who had noted a source of discomfort and was keeping track of its location. He was tallish, dark-haired, somewhere in his mid-30s. He moved through the room with the ease of a man who had always moved through rooms like this one, which was to say without calculation, without the social arithmetic she could see operating in most other people. He laughed easily. He spoke to people with what appeared to be genuine interest. He was, by most measures, exactly the kind of man that rooms full of people like this one found entirely satisfactory. She supposed he was not, in the ordinary sense, bad. He had simply said a thing without thinking about who would hear it. She was aware that these were not the same thing. She was also aware, with the flat specific honesty she kept for her own internal accounting, that the awareness did not make the thing hurt less. It was Lady Compton who found her. She was perhaps 68, silver-haired, with the particular quality of presence that came from decades of being correct about things and not making a fuss about it. She had known Iris's mother not closely, but genuinely, in the way of women who moved in the same circles for 30 years and developed, through accumulation, a real warmth. She came to stand beside Iris near the window at 10:15, with the directness of someone who had decided to go somewhere and gone there. "Miss Vane," she said, "you look very well this evening." "Thank you, Lady Compton," Iris said. The old woman looked at the dress, a real look, attentive, the look of someone who was actually seeing rather than glancing. "That color," she said, "your mother used to wear it, I remember." Iris's hands were very still in her lap. "Yes," she said, "she did." "It was her color," Lady Compton said, simply, not with the careful gentleness of someone managing a grief, simply as a fact, stated by someone who had known the person the fact belonged to. She always looked remarkable in it. "She did," Iris said. Lady Compton looked at her. "So do you," she said. She moved on to someone else, to the next conversation, with the unhurried ease of a woman who had said what she had come to say and was content with that. Iris sat with her wine and looked at the room. She thought about her mother, about the color and the cedar chest and the 6 hours and the thimble that had fit the wrong hand, about the way grief arrived not always in the immediate sense, but in specific, unexpected moments, in an old woman recognizing a color across a ballroom, in the matter-of-fact simplicity of she always looked remarkable in it. She was very close, for a moment, to the thing she had been keeping at a distance all evening. She took a breath. She picked up her wine. She finished it. She danced twice more before midnight. She was not, she told herself, watching the Duke. She was not tracking his location with any particular intention or awareness. She was simply, in a room, at an event, going about the ordinary business of a ball while the Duke happened to also be in the room going about his. He asked her to dance at 10:20. She had been talking to Lucy and had not seen him approach, which meant she had no warning and no opportunity to construct a response in advance. She turned, and he was there closer than she had expected, with the direct, uncalculating ease of a man who had decided to do something and had done it. "Miss Vane," he said, "would you?" "I'm afraid this set is taken," she said. It was not taken. He probably knew it was not taken. She met his eyes for exactly the duration required to say this, and then returned to Lucy, who received the whole exchange with the expression she wore when she was not going to say anything immediately, but had a great deal to say eventually. The Duke withdrew. Iris talked to Lucy about the hunting conversation, which she had not found interesting the first time and did not find interesting now, and was aware, at the edge of her attention, that the Duke had found someone else to speak to and had not looked back. Good, she thought. At 22:11, he was there again. She was alone this time. Lucy had been claimed by someone's aunt, and she had no immediate excuse available and no warning, and she met his eyes for a fraction of a second before she could arrange her face, and saw, in that fraction, that he was looking at her with an expression she had not expected. Not charming, not the easy social warmth she had observed across the room all evening, something more deliberate, something that had the quality of a man who had made a decision and was operating from inside it rather than toward it. "Miss Vane," he said, "I believe there may be." "The set is just ending," she said. "I'm afraid I'm promised for the next." She was not promised for the next. He looked at her for a moment. "Of course," he said, "perhaps later in the evening." "Perhaps," she said. He went. She stood near the window with her hands folded, and her face correct, and thought about nothing in particular with considerable intensity, until Lucy reappeared at her elbow. "He asked you twice," Lucy said. "Yes," Iris said. "You said no twice." "Yes," Iris said. "Are you going to tell me why, or shall I deduce it?" "You've already deduced it," Iris said. "Yes," Lucy said, "I have." A pause. "He's looking at you." "I know," Iris said. From across the room. "I know, Lucy." "Just noting it," Lucy said mildly. The band struck up a new set. Around them the room reorganized itself into the familiar patterns, couples finding each other, the floor clearing and filling. The lamp light was warm and the music was good, and the pale blue dress was the right color in it, which her mother had known, which had been the whole point. Iris watched the dancing. She was not thinking about the Duke. She was thinking about a cedar chest and a silver thimble, and a woman who had worn a particular color for 15 years until the color became hers, until it became so entirely, specifically hers that her daughter would look at it 2 years after her death and understand, without quite being able to say why, that wearing it was the closest thing available to not being alone. "I'm going to get some more wine," she said. "I'll come with you," said Lucy. "No need," Iris said. "Stay and dance if someone asks. I'm fine." She was fine. She went to get wine and passed the Duke on the way and did not look at him, and did not hurry past him and did not slow down either. And she heard, behind her, the sound of a man who had stopped walking, and she did not turn around. She got her wine. She stood at the edge of the room and drank it, and looked at the dancing and thought, with the flat specific clarity of someone arriving at a decision at 11:20, at a ball they had not wanted to attend in a dress that was not borrowed. "I am not leaving." She had not, she thought, really decided this until just now. She had said it to Lucy on the balcony, and she had believed herself when she said it. But there was a difference between saying a thing and deciding it, and she understood the difference now because she felt it. The specific, quiet, unannounced solidity of something that had moved from one category to the other. She was not leaving. She put her empty glass on a tray. She went to find Lucy. She danced the last 2 sets of the evening with the particular concentrated attention of a woman who was paying attention to the music, rather than to the man across the room who had, by several reports she would hear the following day, spent a considerable portion of the second half of the Hartwell ball looking at the woman in the pale blue dress, and being unable to account for why he couldn't stop. In the carriage on the way home, Lucy said, "You stayed." "Yes," Iris said. "You didn't have to." "No." "But you did." "Yes," Iris said. She was looking out the window at the dark road. "I did." Lucy was quiet for a moment. "He asked you twice," she said. "I know. And he watched you for most of the second half." "I know that too," Iris said. "And you still said no." "Yes." "Is that," Lucy stopped, tried again, "is that the end of it or the beginning?" Iris thought about this. She thought about her hands on the balcony railing and the dark garden and the lamp at the gate. About Lady Compton, and she always looked remarkable in it. About a man who had said a thing without thinking about who would hear it and had then, by several accounts she was assembling in real time, spent the rest of the evening trying to correct for something he apparently understood he had done. She thought about the dress, about the cedar chest it had come from and would return to tonight, and whether the next time she opened it she would smell lavender and something older underneath and feel the weight of it differently. "I don't know yet," she said. Lucy nodded. She said nothing further. Outside, the dark road moved past, and the carriage lamp made its small circle of light, and Iris sat in the middle of it with her needle-pricked fingers and her mother's color, and the flat specific knowledge of a woman who had decided, at 11:20 at a ball she had not wanted to attend, that she was not leaving. What came after not leaving was, she thought, a separate question. She was prepared to find out. The dress went back into the cedar chest that night. Not hurriedly. She did not treat it hurriedly. She had come home and changed and folded it the way her mother had folded it, the particular fold she had learned from her own mother, the one that made almost no creases. She had put it back in the chest with the lavender torba and closed the lid and sat on the edge of her mother's bed for a while in the dark. She had not cried. She had sat. Then she had gone to bed and slept with the flat, decisive sleep of someone who has made a decision and is not revisiting it. In the morning she made her own tea and sat at the kitchen table and thought, with the careful specific attention she brought to things she needed to understand, about what she was going to do next. Not about the Duke, not directly, not yet. About herself. About the specific question of what it meant to decide you were not leaving and then wake up the next morning in the ordinary light of an October kitchen and understand that not leaving was only the beginning of the question. She drank her tea. She was going to Lady Forsyth's card evening on Thursday. She had been invited and had planned to decline and had now, by the logic of last night, revised this. She was going to the Whitmore dinner the following week. She was going to take the season as it came, which she had not been doing, which she understood now was a form of leaving that did not require going anywhere. She finished her tea. She wrote 2 acceptance letters. She did not see the Duke for 11 days. This was, in a social calendar of the density that November produced, its own kind of information. It suggested either that he was avoiding the same room she was attending, which seemed unlikely given his position, or that he was attending rooms she was not, which was entirely possible, or that the geography of a county in autumn was simply large enough to accommodate 2 people who had not yet decided what to do with each other. On the 11th day, he was at Lady Forsyth's afternoon gathering, which she had not expected. He did not generally attend afternoon gatherings, from what she had observed, which was admittedly limited, and she saw him across the room before he saw her, which gave her the small advantage of a few seconds to arrange herself. She arranged herself. He looked up. He saw her. Something moved through his expression, brief, not entirely legible, gone before she could catalog it properly. Not surprise, exactly. Something more like arrival, the expression of someone who has been going somewhere and has gotten there. He crossed the room. She watched him come with the composed stillness she had developed for exactly this kind of moment. The moment when something you had been thinking about in the abstract became concrete and required an actual response. "Miss Vane," he said. "Your Grace," she said. He stopped at a distance that was correct, not too close, not managed. The distance of someone who was being careful without performing the carefulness. "I'm glad you're here," he said. She looked at him. "Are you?" she said. "I've been," he stopped, started again. "I've been wanting to speak to you." "I gathered," she said. "You asked me to dance twice at the Hartwell ball." "Yes," he said, "and you declined." "Yes," she said, "I did." He held her gaze. He was not, she noted, flinching from this, from the directness of it, from the acknowledgement that she had declined, and he was here anyway. He was receiving it with the steadiness of someone who had decided the conversation was necessary and was prepared for it to be uncomfortable. "I owe you an apology," he said. "Yes," she said, "you do." He looked at her for a moment. "May I sit with you?" he said, "for a few minutes?" She thought about this. "Lady Forsyth has a conservatory," she said. "Through that door it's quieter." He nodded. They went to the conservatory. It was a good conservatory, long, glass-roofed, full of the particular humid warmth of a room that was trying to be summer in November. Plants she couldn't name and some she could. A pair of wicker chairs near the far window. The sound of the gathering behind them, muffled and distant. They sat. She waited. He had asked for the conversation. She was going to let him begin it, and she was going to let him find his own way to what he needed to say, and she was not going to manage it for him, because managing it for him would cost her something, and she had decided to stop paying for things that weren't her responsibility. He looked at the plants for a moment. Then he looked at her. "At the Hartwell ball," he said, "I made a remark about a dress." "Yes," she said. "I didn't know you heard it." "I know you didn't." He paused. He stopped. "I'm not sure whether that makes it better or worse." "Worse," she said, "for the most part." He received this. "I was told afterward," he said, "that you had heard, and that—" He stopped again. Something in his expression was working through something, visible on the surface in a way she had not expected from him. "I was told whose dress it was." Iris looked at him. "Who told you?" she said. "Carver," he said. "My friend. He knew your family, knew of them. He told me after the ball that you had heard, and that the dress had been your mother's, and that she had died 2 years ago." The conservatory was warm and quiet. "And," she said. "And I found," he said, "that I had very little to say to that, which was not a comfortable discovery." She looked at the plants, at a large-leafed thing in the corner that she didn't know the name of, but that seemed entirely content with its situation. "I altered it myself," she said, "that morning 6 hours." He was quiet. "She was shorter than me," Iris said. "The hem needed taking up, the waist needed adjustment. I used her sewing box, the same thread she would have used." She said this looking at the plants, not at him. Not as a performance, she was simply finding it easier to say to the plants, and the plants were not judging the information. "I pricked my finger 3 times. I wrapped it in a handkerchief. I wore the handkerchief under my glove all evening." She stopped. The muffled sound of the gathering continued behind them. "I'm sorry," he said. She turned to look at him. The apology was, she assessed it with the careful honesty she brought to all important assessments, genuine, not performed, not an instrument for something else. The direct, specific sorry of a man who understood what he had done and was not trying to make it smaller than it was. "Yes," she said, "I imagine you are." "That isn't sufficient," he said. "No," she agreed, "it isn't." He held her gaze. "I know, I'm not offering it as sufficient. I'm offering it as the beginning of I don't know what, whatever comes after an apology that isn't sufficient." She looked at him for a long moment. "That would require considerably more than an apology," she said. "I know," he said, "I'm prepared for that." She stood. He stood. They walked back through the conservatory door into the warmth and sound of Lady Forsythe's gathering, and she went to find Lucy, who found her immediately, which meant she had been watching the conservatory door and was not embarrassed about it. "Well," Lucy said. "He apologized," Iris said. And I told him it wasn't sufficient. And he said he knew." She accepted a cup of tea from a passing tray. "He said he was prepared for that." Lucy was quiet for a moment. "What does that mean?" she said. "I'm not sure yet," Iris said. "I suppose we'll find out." He came to the library on a Wednesday. Not the Alderton Lending Library, the Forsythe family's private library, which Lady Forsythe opened on Wednesday afternoons to a small group of readers, with the particular generosity of someone who had more books than she could read alone, and considered this a correctable situation. Iris had been attending for the better part of a year. It was one of the things she did, one of the ordinary weekly rhythms that had accumulated in the 2 years since her parents' deaths to form something that functioned, most days, like a life. She was in the second row of shelves when she heard the door and the particular quality of Lady Forsythe's greeting that indicated someone she was pleased to see. She stayed where she was. She heard his voice, even, unhurried, thanking Lady Forsythe for the invitation, which meant he had been invited, which meant Lady Forsythe had decided to involve herself, which was the kind of thing Lady Forsythe did with the cheerful, unapologetic directness of a woman in her 70s who had earned the right to arrange things. She heard footsteps. She did not look up from the shelf. "Miss Vane," he said. She looked up. He was holding a book, had apparently picked it up from the nearest table with the ease of someone who needed something to do with his hands. He looked at the shelves around her with what might have been genuine interest or might have been a very good performance of it. "Lady Forsythe's collection is remarkable," he said. "Yes," she said, "it is. She has 2 copies of Middlemarch." "One is mine," Iris said. "I lent it some months ago and haven't retrieved it." He looked at her. Something moved in his expression, the almost smile, the thing that lived just below the composed surface. "Libraries should have 2 copies of Middlemarch," he said. She looked at him. "That's an oddly specific opinion," she said. "I have specific opinions," he said. She turned back to the shelf. She was looking for a particular volume that she had been meaning to find for 2 weeks and had not found, which might mean it was misfiled or borrowed or simply not where she remembered it. "What are you looking for?" he said. "A history of the wool trade," she said. "My father had a copy. I don't know what became of it. I thought Lady Forsythe might have one." "Wool trade specifically, or textile history more broadly?" She turned. "Specifically. He had an interest in the economics of it." He looked at the shelf above her, the top shelf, which required either a step or a tall person. He was a tall person. He scanned it with the focused attention of someone who actually knew how to look at a shelf and not just at it. "Here," he said. He brought it down. Not the exact volume her father had owned, but a good one, well regarded. She recognized the title. He handed it to her. She took it. "Thank you," she said. "You're welcome," he said. They stood in the second row of shelves with the book between them, her holding it, him having handed it, the small specific fact of an exchange in a library on a Wednesday afternoon. "Sit with me," he said, "if you're willing." She thought about this. "For a while," she said. They found 2 chairs near the window, the good reading chairs, the ones Lady Forsyth kept specifically for people who intended to actually read rather than merely to be seen in a library. He opened his book. She opened hers, the wool trade history, her father's subject, which she had not thought about in 2 years, and found, opening the pages, that she had more to say about than she had expected. They sat for an hour. She read, he read. The library had its particular quality of inhabited quiet, not silence, not noise, but the active, warm stillness of a room full of accumulated thought in the company of people who were adding to it. She was aware of him in the way she had become aware of him, not intrusively, not with the background vigilance she had maintained at the Hartwell ball, but the easy, undemanding awareness of someone in a room who was simply there, present, occupying his share of the quiet without disturbing hers. She read about the wool trade. She thought occasionally about her father. At the end of the hour, she closed the book. "I'm going to borrow this," she said. "Lady Forsyth will allow it," he said. "I know," she said. He stood. "You came specifically," she said. "Today, Lady Forsyth invited you, but you came because I'd be here." He looked at her. "Yes," he said. "Why?" "Because I said I was prepared for what comes after an insufficient apology," he said, "and I meant it." She held his gaze. "Wednesday is not sufficient either," she said, "in case you were wondering." "I wasn't wondering," he said. "I wasn't expecting it to be." She gathered her things. "Thursday," she said, "there's a talk at the Whitmore house. Agricultural matters. It will be very dull." She said this without looking at him. She heard just behind her brief, genuine, unguarded. A laugh. Not the composed version. Not the easy social warmth she had observed across rooms. The real one, surprised out of him, arriving before he could calculate whether he intended it. She did not turn around. But she noted with the careful honesty she kept for her own internal accounting, not displeased. "I'll be there," he said. He was there. And at the Alderton dinner the following Monday. And at Lady Compton's Sunday afternoon, where Lady Compton received him with the look of a woman who had arranged nothing and was pleased with how it was going anyway. And at the Whitmore card evening, where he sat across from Iris at a card table and played whist with the precise, attentive focus of someone who took even dull games seriously, which she found she respected. He did not press. This was the thing she had been waiting for, the moment when the patience would reveal itself as strategy, when the consistency would show its calculation. She had been through enough rooms and enough seasons to know what managed attention looked like, and she was watching for it. It did not come. He simply appeared, at the thing she attended, without announcement, without making his attendance about her in any visible way. He talked to other people. He had conversations she was not part of. He was, in all the ways she could observe, simply a person going about a social season who happened to be going about it in the same direction she was. Except that he found her in rooms. Not always immediately. Sometimes she would be 20 minutes into an event before she was aware of him. But he found her. And when he found her, he sat with her or walked with her or stood near her at a window, and he talked to her with the direct, specific attention she had first catalogued in the conservatory, and he listened in the way she had first noticed at the Hartwell ball when he had asked for a dance, and she had declined, and he had received the decline without performing hurt or incomprehension. He simply listened. She had not, she was beginning to understand, had a great deal of that in recent years. Her parents had listened well, in their different ways, and then they had not been there, and she had become someone who did not particularly expect to be listened to, which was a category shift she had not noticed making. She was noticing it now. Lady Compton found her on a Tuesday. Not at an event, at the lending library, where Lady Compton occasionally appeared to return books she had kept considerably longer than the lending period permitted, and which the library received back without comment. She found Iris at the desk and sat in the chair that visitors sat in and looked at her with the frank, assessing look that was her characteristic quality. "The Duke of Ashford," she said. "Good morning, Lady Compton," Iris said. "I've known James Ashford for 15 years, Lady Compton said, undeterred. "He is not, in general, a man who persists." "No," Iris said. "He is also not, in general, a man who makes careless remarks and then spends the better part of a month correcting for them." "No," Iris said. "I mention this," Lady Compton said, "not as a recommendation, merely as information." "I understand the distinction," Iris said. "I thought you might." The old woman looked at her steadily. "Your mother," she said, "was a woman who knew what she wanted and was not in a hurry about it. She took her time. She got things right." A pause. "I've always thought you were quite like her." Iris looked at the catalog card in front of her. "I hope so," she said. "The color helps," Lady Compton said, "whenever you wear it." She returned her overdue books. She left. Iris sat at the desk for a long time after she had gone, looking at nothing in particular, thinking about what it meant to be quite like someone, to carry their color and their fold and their way of taking time with things, and whether that was the same as being them, or whether it was something different, something that was yours, made from what they had left you. She was at home on a Thursday afternoon when Lucy arrived. She came in with the particular energy she carried when she had something to say, and had already decided to say it, which was a different energy from the one she carried when she was still deciding. She sat at the kitchen table. She said, "Mr. Hadley asked about you." Iris looked at her. "He asked my mother," Lucy said, "whether you might be amenable to being called upon." "Mr. Hadley," Iris said. "He's very respectable," Lucy said. "Good family, decent income. He's kind, Iris, he genuinely is, and she stopped. "He's straightforward, there's nothing complicated about him." Iris thought about this. Mr. Hadley was 32 and had a pleasant face, and had spoken to her on 4 separate occasions with the consistent, uncomplicated kindness of someone who meant everything he said and said only what he meant. He was, in the terms she had available to her, entirely suitable. He was safe in the way that Lucy meant no difficult history, no careless remarks, no conservatory apologies. She thought about straightforward. She thought about simple. She thought about a man in the second row of a library, finding a book she had been looking for on the top shelf, and handing it to her with the same even, unhurried attention he gave to everything. She thought about a laugh, brief, genuine, surprised out of him. "I know he's kind," she said. "He is," Lucy said, "and the other one." "Don't," Iris said. "I'm not saying anything against him," Lucy said. "I'm saying Mr. Hadley is simple and the other situation is not." "No," Iris agreed, "it's not." "So?" Iris was quiet for a moment. She thought about not leaving, about the specific decision made at 11:20 at a ball she had not wanted to attend, about what not leaving had turned into Wednesdays in a library, Thursday talks about agricultural matters, a man finding her in rooms without making the finding about her. She thought about what her mother would have said. She thought she would have taken her time. "Tell your mother," Iris said, "that I'm flattered, but no." Lucy looked at her. "The other one," she said. "Not a question." "I haven't decided anything," Iris said. But I haven't decided no," she said, "which is different from yes, but it's also different from Mr. Hadley." Lucy was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Your mother would have liked him, I think, the Duke." Iris looked at her. "She liked people who found things," Lucy said, "in libraries on top shelves, She stood. She was very specific about that. She left. Iris sat at the kitchen table in the autumn afternoon light and thought about things found on top shelves and laughs that arrived before calculation, and the weight of wearing something that used to belong to someone who was no longer there. She thought about what it meant to carry a color into a room. Whether it was the same color when a different person wore it, or whether it became something new, still hers, still her mother's, but also slowly its own. She sat for a long time. Then she got up and went to the cedar chest. She opened it. The dress was there, folded the right way, lavender and the older smell underneath. She did not take it out. She looked at it for a moment. Then she left the chest open. She went back to the kitchen. She made tea. He came on a Friday morning. She had not expected him. She had not, in the week since the conservatory and the library and the Thursday talks about agricultural matters, settled into expecting him anywhere in particular. He appeared at things. He found her in rooms, but he had not come to her house, and she had not invited him, and there had been, between them, an unspoken understanding that the house was a different category from rooms. She heard the knock at 10:30. She was at the kitchen table with her father's wool trade book. She had been reading it in the morning, slowly, the way you read something that keeps stopping you to think. She had a cup of tea that was still warm and a piece of paper where she had been writing notes in the margins of her thinking, not the book itself, because the book was borrowed and she had been raised to return things in the condition she had received them. She went to the door. He was standing on the step in his coat, with the even unhurried expression she had catalogued across a month of rooms and libraries, and the particular quality that she had come to understand was not composure precisely, but something more considered, the face of a man who had decided to be somewhere, and was entirely comfortable with the decision. She looked at him. "Your Grace," she said. "Miss Vane," he said, "I'm sorry to call without notice." "You've done it anyway," she said. "Yes," he said, "I have." She stepped back from the door. He came in. The sitting room was small and exactly itself. He looked at it the way she had come to understand he looked at things, with the real attention, not the polite version. At the books, which had views of their own about shelving. At the writing desk near the window, which had her father's papers still arranged on it in the specific, purposeful disorder of a man who had known where everything was, and whose daughter had not been able to bring herself to change the arrangement. At the two chairs near the fireplace, one of which was worn in a particular way that said something about who had sat in it most often. She did not offer to make tea. He had come to say something. She could feel the shape of it, the specific quality of a person who has been building towards something and has arrived at the place where the building stops and the saying begins. She was going to let him say it. She sat. He sat. He looked at his hands for a moment, briefly, the way a person looked at their hands when they were assembling the right words. Then he looked at her. "I've been thinking," he said, "about what you said in the conservatory." "That your apology wasn't sufficient," she said. "Yes," a pause. "And what you said at the library, that Wednesday wasn't sufficient." "Yes." "And I've been trying to understand what sufficient looks like," he said. "Not in the sense of what I need to do to reach a particular outcome, but in the actual sense, what it would mean for me to have genuinely understood what I did." She waited. "I said a thing," he said, without thinking about who was near enough to hear it, and the thing I said was wrong on its own terms. I looked at a dress and made an assumption about it that said nothing about the dress and a great deal about the speed of my own judgment. He held her gaze. "And then, beyond that, the dress was your mother's, which I didn't know. But which changes nothing about the fact that I made a careless remark about something a woman was wearing without considering that a woman wearing something might have reasons for wearing it that I could not see and had not considered." The sitting room was very quiet. You've been thinking about this for a while, she said. Yes, he said. Since Carver told you. Before that, he said. I knew something was wrong before Carver told me. I knew it when you declined to dance. Not because you declined, that was your right, but because of the way you did it, the specific quality of it. She looked at him. What quality? She said. Like you were closing a door, he said, quietly, without anger, just closing it. She was still. Yes, she said. I've been on the other side of a lot of closed doors, he said. I don't think I've ever thought carefully about what it costs the person doing the closing. Iris looked at this man, at the even face and the steady eyes, and the expression that was working through something in plain view, without attempting to manage how the working through appeared. She thought about the conservatory, about asterisk I'm prepared for that, about a month of libraries and rooms and a man finding things on top shelves without making the finding about himself. She thought about her mother, about what it meant to take time, to get things right. The dress, she said. Yes, he said. You want to understand what it was? Yes, he said, if you'll tell me. She looked at her hands for a moment. Then she told him. Not the version she had told him in the conservatory, the factual version, the 6 hours and the hem and the thimble. This version was longer. It had her mother in it, not as a subject, not as the person whose dress it was, but as a person. Her specific quality of taking time with things, the way she folded things, the particular blue and why it had become her color and what color meant when it became a person's, and what happened to the color when the person was gone. She told him about the cedar chest, about opening it after 2 years and the specific combination of lavender and something older underneath, about the decision to alter the dress, which had not felt like a decision at the time, but which she understood now had been one. The decision to carry her mother into that room even though carrying her would cost something. She would have been at the ball, Iris said. If she were alive, she would have been at the Hartwell ball in November and she would have worn something and talked to Lady Compton, who remembered her color, and she would have. She stopped. She was very close, again, to the thing she had been keeping at a distance for 2 years. She let it be close. She did not push it away. She would have been there, she said, and she wasn't, so I wore the dress, because it was the nearest thing I had. The fire crackled. The sitting room was warm in the way that small rooms were warm in November. Not the grand warmth of large fires in large rooms, but the particular, specific warmth of a contained space that had been looked after. He was very still across from her. Thank you, he said. She looked at him. For telling me, he said. Not I know it wasn't for me, but thank you. She looked at him for a long moment. No, she said, it wasn't for you, a pause, it was for her. I know, he said. Something shifted between them, not dramatically, not with announcement. The small, specific shift of 2 people who have said true things to each other and are now in a room that contains those true things and is different for it. He stood. She stood. He looked at her, the full, attending look. I would like, he said, to continue, whatever this is, with your permission. She looked at him. You've been continuing for a month, she said. With considerably less permission than I'd like, he said. Permission is earned, she said. I know, he said, I'm still earning it. Yes, she said, you are. He went to the door. He stopped. The wool trade book, he said. Lady Forsyth's copy, how is it? She looked at him. Very good, she said. My father had opinions about it. I'm developing my own. I'd like to hear them, he said. Wednesday, she said. Lady Forsyth's library. Wednesday, he said. He left. She stood in the sitting room for a moment after the door had closed. Then she went back to the kitchen table, to the wool trade book and the notes in the margins of her thinking and the tea that was now entirely cold. She sat down. She picked up her pen. She noted, still thinking about his face when she had told him about her mother. Not the polished face, the other one. The one that had received what she said without trying to make it smaller or manage it into something easier to hold. She wrote a note about the economics of medieval wool production. She was not thinking about the economics of medieval wool production. She did not see him for 6 days after the Friday visit. This was not alarming. It was November, and November had its own weather and its own rhythms, and 6 days without a particular person was well within the range of ordinary. She attended Lady Forsyth's Wednesday library. He was not there. She attended the Whitmore dinner on Thursday. He was not there either, his absence noted by several people in the way of a room that had adjusted to expecting him and was recalibrating. On the 7th day Lucy arrived. She did not arrive with the usual energy. She arrived with the careful, contained manner of someone who was managing what they were about to say. Iris looked at her face. "What?" she said. Lucy sat. She said, "I heard something this morning from Mrs. Carver." "Mrs. Carver," Iris said. "Who heard it from her husband," Lucy said. "Who is the Duke's particular friend?" Iris put down her pen. "What did you hear?" she said. "There's a family in London," Lucy said. "The Merritts, old connection to the Ashford estate, his mother's side. There's a daughter. She's been Mrs. Carver's word was considered for the past year." The kitchen was very still. "Considered," Iris said. "Nothing formal, no announcement, but," Lucy looked at her. "His mother is apparently expecting him in London next week. There's to be a dinner." Iris looked at the window. The November garden was bare, everything stripped back to its structure, the bones of things visible now that the leaves were gone. She had always thought this was the most honest season. Things looked like what they were. "How reliable is Mrs. Carver?" she said. "Very," Lucy said. "She doesn't speculate, she reports." Iris absorbed this. She thought about a month of libraries and rooms and conservatories, and a man who had come to her house and asked to continue with your permission, and who had been earning the permission, she had thought, genuinely. She thought about "I'm still earning it." She thought about a dinner in London, and a family with an old connection, and a daughter who had been considered. She thought about what she did not know, which was a great deal. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "Iris." "I'm fine," she said. "You don't have to be fine." "I know," she said. "I'm choosing it." Lucy left reluctantly. Iris sat at the kitchen table. She sat for a long time. Then she went to the cedar chest. She opened it. She took the dress out, unfolded it carefully the way her mother had taught her. She held it up in the light from the window, pale blue, her mother's color, her color now or becoming it. She put it down on the bed. She looked at it for a long time. Then she folded it, the right fold, the one that made almost no creases, and she put it back. But not at the bottom of the chest, under the lavender. On the top shelf of her wardrobe, visible, available. She closed the wardrobe. She went back to the kitchen. She did not, she noted, feel the way she had expected to feel. She felt clear, the particular clarity of someone who has taken a piece of information and sorted it and arrived at the thing they actually think, as distinct from the thing they had been hoping to think. She did not know what the dinner in London meant. She did not know what considered amounted to, or what his mother expected, or what he intended. What she knew was that she was not going to manage the uncertainty into something comfortable. She was not going to make a decision about what the dress meant, or what she felt, or what she was going to do, until she had the information she needed to make it. and the information was not available at her kitchen table on a Monday in November. She was going to wait. She was going to go to Lady Forsyth's on Wednesday. And she was going to see. He was there on Wednesday. He found her in the second row of shelves. She was looking for something else this time, not the wool trade. A book about the history of the English garden that she had told herself she was looking for purely from interest, and which had nothing to do with the garden at her parents' house, that she had been thinking about recently in a way that was not entirely about the garden. She heard him behind her. She did not turn around. "Miss Vane," he said. "Your Grace," she said. She kept looking at the shelf. "I've been in London," he said. "I'm sorry I wasn't at Lady Forsyth's last week." "You don't owe me your schedule," she said. "No," he said, "but I owe you honesty." She turned. He was standing in the same position he had stood in the first time she had met him in this library, close enough for a real conversation, with the even, attending expression, except that today there was something different in it. Something that had the quality of a man who was about to say something he had been deciding how to say. "There's a family in London," he said. "The Merits, my mother she has a view about a match." Iris looked at him. "I know," she said. He absorbed this. "Carver," he said. "Mrs. Carver," she said, "who is apparently very reliable." "Yes," he said, "she is." He looked at her steadily. "I want to be clear about something." "Then be clear," she said. "I have not made any commitment," he said, "to the Merritt family or to any other. My mother has views. She frequently has views. I am not. I do not make decisions on the basis of my mother's views." "What do you make decisions on the basis of?" she said. He held her gaze. "My own," he said, "which are considerably more specific than hers." The library was quiet around them. "And what is your view?" she said. "My view," he said, "is that I have been in rooms with you for the better part of 2 months, and in a conservatory, and in your sitting room, and in this library twice." A pause. "My view is that I said something careless at a ball in October and understood immediately that I had done something I could not undo and spent the following weeks trying to understand, genuinely, what I had done." Another pause. "My view is that the dress was your mother's and you wore it because you were carrying her into the room, and I looked at it and saw nothing of that, and said something that reduced a thing of considerable meaning to an observation about social signaling." She was very still. "My view," he said, "is that I would like to stop earning permission and begin something with actual permission, if you're willing." The library was very quiet. Iris looked at this man, at the even face and the steady eyes and the specific, direct honesty of someone who had done the accounting and was presenting it without embellishment. She thought about what Lucy had said. He's not straightforward. He's not simple. No, he was not. He was specific. He was attending. He was a man who had said a careless thing and had then, instead of managing the consequences, tried to understand them, which was a different thing entirely and considerably rarer. She thought about her mother, about taking time, about getting things right. She thought about the dress on the top shelf of her wardrobe, visible, available. "The wool trade book," she said. He blinked. "Lady Forsyth's copy," she said. "I need to return it. I've finished with it." "All right," he said, with the expression of a man following a turn he had not anticipated. "I'd like to tell you what I think of it," she said. "My opinions, the ones I've been developing." "Yes," he said. "Sit with me," she said, "for more than a while this time." Something moved through his expression, the warm, unperformed thing, fully visible. "Yes," he said. They found the chairs by the window. She told him about the wool trade. He listened. The season's last ball was in December. It was smaller than the Hartwell, 40 people instead of 200. in a room that was intimate rather than grand, with the particular quality of a gathering that had decided to be warm rather than impressive. The Alderton Winter Assembly, the event that closed the calendar and sent everyone back to their own houses until January. Iris had been to it every year since she was 20. She wore the pale blue dress. Not altered, not adjusted for the season or the occasion or any other practical consideration. She wore it as it was, which was as her mother had worn it, which meant the hem was slightly long for her, and the waist was slightly soft, and it moved the way it had always moved, with the unhurried certainty of something that knew what it was. She had taken it from the wardrobe that morning and held it up in the December light and thought, yes. Just that. Yes. Lucy had looked at her when she came downstairs and had said nothing, which was the most eloquent thing she could have said. They arrived at the assembly rooms at 8:30. He was at the door. She had not told him she was coming. She had not told him about the dress. He was simply there, as he had been simply there at things for the past 2 months, and he looked up when she came through the door and she watched his face. He saw the dress. She watched him see it. Not the casual glance of October, the real seeing, the full attending kind. He looked at the pale blue dress in the December lamplight, and his face did the thing it did when he was receiving something completely, when he was not managing his response but simply having it. He crossed the room. He stopped in front of her. He was close, the distance of someone who had stopped pretending that distance was neutral. "You're wearing it," he said. "Yes," she said. He looked at the dress, at the hem that was slightly long and the waist that was slightly soft, and the color that had been her mother's for 15 years and was now, she had decided, also hers. "It's the same," he said. "You haven't altered it." "No," she said. "I adjusted myself instead." He looked at her. She looked back. "James," she said. She had not called him by his name before. She had been waiting until she was certain, not of him. She had been certain of him for some time, but of herself, of what she was carrying into this room and what she intended to do with it. She was certain. His expression did the thing that had no composed version, warm and unperformed, and fully present, in a way that he apparently had no mechanism for managing. "Iris," he said. He offered his hand. Not for a dance, they were standing in the entrance. The music had not yet started. He simply offered his hand the way he had been offering things for 2 months. The book on the top shelf, the chair by the window, the honest accounting in a library. She took it. 1 year later. The Hartwell Winter Ball. The same room, the same 400 candles, the same organized brightness of a large gathering that had been anticipating itself all season. Iris came through the entrance at 8:30 in the pale blue dress. The same dress, her mother's dress, the hem still slightly long, the waist still slightly soft, the color still the color it had always been, her mother's blue, which was also now hers. There were people who looked. There were always people who looked. This was, she had found, a permanent condition not specific to the dress or the occasion or the particular history of last year's ball, but simply the nature of rooms. People looked. They always had and they always would. She had stopped calculating what the looking cost. James was waiting. Not at the door, he was already inside, already talking to someone, doing the ordinary business of a man at a large event. But he found her the way he always found her, without making the finding visible, without announcement, simply appearing at her side with the ease of someone continuing an interrupted conversation. "You're wearing it," he said. "Every year," she said. "I've decided." He looked at her. "Every year," he said. "It's her dress," she said. "It'll always be her dress, but it can be mine too." She looked at the room, at the 400 candles and the 200 people, and the particular organized brightness of an event that had once contained a careless remark and a balcony and a decision made at 20 past 11. Things can be more than one thing. He was quiet for a moment. Yes, he said, they can. The music started. He offered his hand. She took it. They moved to the floor, not hurriedly, not with the self-consciousness of people aware of being watched, but with the particular ease of two people who had decided, separately and then together, that rooms were just rooms and music was just music, and the only thing that mattered was what you carried into them and what you chose, deliberately and with full knowledge to carry. She thought about her mother. Not with the specific weight she had carried last year, the weight of absence, of wearing someone in order to have them present, with something different, something that had been changing slowly over the course of a year, the way things changed when you paid them the right attention. Gratitude, she thought, not grief, or not only grief, gratitude for the color, for the fold, for the 15 years of a woman in a room carrying something that no one could see and doing it always, with the unhurried certainty of someone who knew exactly what she was worth. She had learned that. Not immediately, not without cost, but she had learned it, was still learning it, in the specific, incremental way of things that required practice rather than declaration. The music moved through the room. James's hand was in hers, steady, attending, present in the way he was always present, which was without reservation. She looked at him. He looked at her. "What are you thinking?" he said. "About the dress," she said. "What about it?" She thought about a cedar chest and a silver thimble and 6 hours on the floor of her mother's bedroom. About a man who had walked past her in a crowded room and said a thing without thinking about who would hear it. About a conservatory and a library and a sitting room and the specific, patient work of earning something worth having. About carrying things into rooms. About what they became when you stopped hiding them. "That it fits better now," she said. He looked at her, the full, attending look, the one that had no composed version. "Yes," he said, "it does." The music continued. The candles burned. The room went about its business around them, which was the business it had always been, people going about their evenings, carrying what they carried, seen and unseen in the ways they were always seen and unseen. And in the middle of it, in the pale blue dress that had been her mother's and was now also hers, Iris Ashford, which was her name now, which she had taken without giving anything up, because names like dresses could be more than one thing, danced with her husband and thought about her mother and felt, for the first time in a long time, that the room was exactly the right size for everything she had brought into it. She had walked in carrying something no one could see, 6 hours of careful work, needle pricks on her fingers, the weight of wearing something that used to belong to someone who was no longer there. He had not seen any of it. Then he had. And the difference between those two things, between a man who looked and did not see, and a man who looked again and kept looking, until he understood what he was seeing was, she had decided, everything. It was, she still thought, everything. Thank you for listening to the story all the way to the end. Please tell us which city you're watching from and what the story made you feel. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss new stories.